At UFC 270, Francis Ngannou unified the UFC heavyweight title when he won a decision over Cyril Gane. By the way, do you know what the betting odds were before the fight that Francis would win via decision? Plus 1,500. That means if you bet $100 that he'd win via decision, you would have won $1,500. That are long odds for a Francis Ngannou decision. It was surprising that Francis would win via decision, but it was shocking that he would win with 3 rounds worth of wrestling and grappling. Yes, Cyril Gane made a very stupid mistake, but we will get there. But the question becomes, is Francis Ngannou a complete fighter now and not just a power puncher? And who should Francis Ngannou fight next? And you might think you know the answer, but I don't think you do. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. Why not hit that subscribe button and stick around for a bit? But if you're not new here, if you've followed this show for a while, you know what I'm going to say next after Francis Ngannou displayed some level of jiu-jitsu. Can Francis Ngannou pass my guard? Well, no, of course not. And yes, I will continue my I am a fan, not a troll, and I just want to compete against the UFC champion, so I will politely call him out and say, Francis, you can't pass my guard. But anyway, in this fight with Cyril Gane, Francis was most likely down 2-0 going into the third because Cyril was landing a lot, albeit without much power, but he was definitely outpointing Francis, and Francis was struggling to find a home for that killer power shot. Well, when Francis caught a kick and hit the first takedown, I think we were all a little bit surprised. But as the fight went on, Francis was changing levels on his strikes to set up takedowns, and he was trying to take the back, and he was looking for judo throws. It was really wild to see. Going into the 5th, I had it 2-2, and whoever won the 5th would win the fight. And again, we saw more grappling, but we also saw, as I previously mentioned, a really bad mistake from Cyril Gane. He was on top of Francis somewhere Francis really did not want him to be, and Cyril Gane dropped back to attempt a heel hook. Which Francis defended, and then Francis came on top and basically sealed the round and the win and the retention of his title. A few things were surprising in that 5th round. The first was that Gane would drop back for the heel hook in a close fight when he's already on top, and he could have stayed on top and rode the round out and probably won the title. But before that even, Francis looked like he knew what he was doing. At one point, it looked like he might be setting up a triangle off of his back, and then he was digging for an underhook and getting up to his hip to try to stand back up. Now, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Are either of these guys headed to ADCC? Not a chance. The grappling was happening. It was happening, but it was way more grappling skill than I expected to see from Francis Ngannou. Everyone has always been aware that if Francis can't land that power shot and you can find a way to grapple him, that is your best path to victory. But at UFC 270, we saw both offensive and defensive grappling from Francis, and I was impressed. Someone who wasn't so impressed? One John Bones Jones, who took to Twitter, as he is wont to do, and commented how if that's the peak of the division, he's excited to break records there, and outright said, quote, "At the end of the day, I'm fucking them both up," end quote. It seems like every other week we have to suffer through another news story about John Jones and saying, I'm doing this to get ready for heavyweight, and oh, I'm doing that to get ready for heavyweight. But do you know what John never actually says? I want to fight. Nevertheless, the next fight to make for the heavyweight title is Francis Ngannou versus John Jones. I am just tired of hearing all this hype for what feels like 3 years now of John Jones saying, oh, I'll come back, ... Eventually. Come back or don't come back, but stop trying to stay in the news. The elephant in the room after 270 is the ongoing beef between Francis Ngannou and the UFC. I discussed this last week in this video, so if you haven't seen that, I will link to it up here and you can check that out. You may have noticed that the man putting the belt around Francis Ngannou in this picture is not Dana White, that's Mick Maynard. Dana White also skipped the post-fight press conference, which almost never happens. It seemed to be a pretty clear message that the feud is real between Francis and Dana. And Francis said he doesn't feel like he's been treated fairly by the UFC. Francis also confirmed he's a free agent come December, and Francis and Tyson Fury have seemed to agree, on Twitter at least, to fight each other. This may be surprising coming from me, an MMA guy, but if Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury can happen and in under a year, and at that point the UFC couldn't stop it from happening because Francis is a free agent, then Francis shouldn't even waste his time waiting for Jon Jones to come back. He should just wait until one day after his contract expires with the UFC and then go fight Tyson Fury. I know that Brett Akamoto had said that Francis has a clause in his current deal that is supposed to automatically renew into a 3-fight contract if Francis is the champ when that current deal expires, but unless I'm missing something, Francis seemed pretty confident that he's gonna be a free agent, so let's just wait until December, I guess. I mean, the UFC heavyweight champion fighting the best heavyweight boxer in the world right now would make so much money for Francis. It would blow anything that he would make from the Jon Jones fight out of the water. That's a life-changing, never have to work again, never have to fight again payday. As an MMA fan, I just want the UFC to throw a bunch of money at Francis Ngannou and keep him on the roster and let him keep winning and maybe even continue to add to his jiu-jitsu arsenal and hit a few subs. But as a fan of Francis the Man, I actually am hoping that the fight with Fury happens. What do you want to see next? Let me know down in the comments. I have like 5 or 6 videos that are all coming out in the next few days because of how busy and jam-packed last weekend was. So while you're down there commenting, make sure you are subscribed and hit that bell icon for notifications. That way when new videos come out, you are the first to know. You won't want to miss anything I have in the works, so please subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.